When I first went to Kathmandu, I had been in Europe and in our country, in Canada and Mexico, but I'd never been in Asia. And the first thing to tell you is that everything is different. But somehow, when I got off the plane, and of course, they had to move cows off the runway in those days because, you know, it's much, much improved now, but it was rather difficult then. And they just had dirt tracks and lanterns down the runway. The thing was that I stepped off the plane and felt completely like I had come home. And my friends that I met, both Nepali and Indian there, said, "You may think you are American, Guru Amma," because I was teaching meditation. I got to be teacher mom. "Guru Amma, you are not. It is written on your forehead, you are Nepali." And I felt that way. I believe in reincarnation. I think that we've all been around the block a lot, especially those of us that are pursuing an inner life. And when I heard about girl trafficking, it was at a United Nations Women's Organization meeting, and it was made public for the first time, and it was done through the doctor's auspices. We were looking for the project now, as Stuart told you. I was looking for service work to do. There's tons of need there. In those days, it was the second poorest country in the world, next to Mongolia, so much poorer than Bangladesh, for example. And there was this beautiful young woman, about 17, and the Indian doctor team from REST, that's Rural Health and Education Service Trust of Nepal, you'll read about it in Stuart's book, had brought her to this meeting because the ladies there had raised enough money for her. And she was a girl that was trafficked. Her name, by the way, was Gita, which means song in Sanskrit and in Hindi and in Nepali. Song was her name. And she was a beautiful child. She was wearing a pretty green sari with flowers in her hair. And she stood up and said in Nepali, "Thank you, Dere Dhanyabad, Dhanyabad, thank you." Because she had been trafficked by her mother when she was 12. And the trafficker had taken her to Falkland Road in Mumbai, and she had been a prostitute for several years. And she became, because the girls serviced so many men there, she became HIV positive. And at that time, they sent the girls that had more than STDs home to their country. So the madam, the Garwali, gave her a ticket, bus ticket to go home. She went to her village and they kicked her out. Her parents wouldn't speak to her. They wouldn't give her a drink of water, nothing. And so the doctors were trying to help her. And this group, the United Nations Women's Organization, had gotten together about $200, a fortune of money, so she could have a little place to live and 2 rooms. She could sleep safely there, and she could sell rakshi or whiskey and beer and cigarettes and make a living. And my friend Susan and I looked at each other. We looked at these doctors. Tears, you know. And I said, "Well, we found our project. Let's call Stuart." And we became instantly involved with the doctor team. Now, the thing about Nepal is, I don't know if you've been there, it's a very beautiful country, and the people are beautiful and very kind. And there's 3 geographical areas: the High Himal, which is next to Tibet, and it's very mountainous and very stark. And then there's the Central Valley area, which has, Kathmandu is there, and it's hills and valleys. And then the lower Gangetic plain that flows into it's all jungly and very verdant, and there's tigers and elephants there. And so Kathmandu is in the middle. Well, there are no big roads. There are no roads much in Nepal. There's the big road that comes in from India where the Tata trucks come. That's about it. So people live in villages far removed from one another and usually don't go beyond 5-10 miles from their village because they have to walk. Now it's better. There are more roads. There's certainly more media, but in those days, not at all. So the girls that were being trafficked were in the far north, and they were Tamang and Gurung girls, which is a tribal, those are tribal people. And they were therefore not part of the caste system, which runs everything in Nepal. And they were considered caste-free and Kleenex. They could be bought and sold, no problem. And they were trafficked into the brothels in India by the truckloads. And the reason is chiefly because of poverty. The life expectancy for women in Nepal at that time was 50. Men, 52. Women do the labor. They have a lot of babies, maybe as many as 10 to 14 children. They have no health care, they have no dental care. Water is a big project. A girl project is to walk down to a river maybe 6 miles away and carry a jug of water home. Water's precious. There's not enough food. The diet is poor, although pretty nutritive because it's rice and dal. So it was amazing to me to get there, to feel like I had a place there and a feeling in my heart for these people. I fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the culture because of our background in meditation. And I felt like the gods and goddesses were calling my name, and it was my karma. I tell you what, if it had been you, you would have stepped up to the plate. I know you would have. And there's very few times in our lives when we can actually have an effect.